You have given us great honor as Amnesty International to be able to address you this afternoon. Salam alaikum. Allow me to not go through the list of the distinguished guests who are here, but to really give honor to a few people who are not here. To that young nurse, Muhammad Elmi. To that member of parliament, Ahmed Halif. To that nun, that Catholic nun, Annalena Tonelli, who I believe was my mother's teacher. To the people who continued year after year for the last 30 years or more, led by Chief Bishar, to remind us that this episode is as red as the red on our flag, and that you cannot understand Kenyan history, you cannot understand African history without understanding what happened between February the 10th and February the 14th. You know, it is said, at least in my culture, it is said that you die twice. You die once when you take your last breath, but you die a second time when people stop telling stories about your life. So this anniversary, this 38th memorial of the Wagalla massacre continues to keep the courage of those who fell, those who continued walking to safety, and those who dragged people from the mouths of hyenas. You honor their memory, and that is why today I was out in the national park. That is why I'm dressed this way. But I told the people who invited me that I could do nothing better this afternoon than rush back and be with you today. So I'm here on behalf of Amnesty International. On March the 26th, 2015, I believe that Uhuru Kenyatta made his greatest speech. I don't think he has made a speech quite like that one, because in full view of the world, he gave an apology for the actions of former governments. He went forward beyond his apology to commit 10 billion shillings for the Restoration Fund. And he urged the Parliament to adopt the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report. Now, what we forget about that moment is that moment would not have happened, and this is where I agree with some of the previous speakers, if there had not been a concerted push by members of Parliament, by youth activists, by presidential advisors at that time, to make sure that the words Wagalla massacre found their way into his speech. So I urge you, I beg you to continue the pressure for justice. You know, it is said that generations can pass, but the arc of justice, it is always finding its way to the present. The words of Desmond Tutu, who recently died, made it very clear that it is not often that justice comes in our lifetime, but it will come. But it will only come in the actions of the generations to follow. And for those of you who are under the age of 38 today, let me just say that you give us hope, those of us who are slightly older than 38. In 2019, 4 years after the promise, the fund lay unoperationalized. 3.5 billion shillings had been set aside in the budget in the 2016-2017, but not a shilling was spent. That money was budgeted for, and it was returned to the Treasury. Why? Because guidelines had not been set up by the Attorney General. Those guidelines were set up in 2018. But no budget was set aside in 2019, and I believe also in 2020. And can I say also, perhaps, in 2021. So what must we do now? And this is the important thing. There are 3 things we can do now. Right? The president's mother's history was wiped out of that annex. So we must go back and we must say that everybody who suffered under the power of the state, that they must be given their time in the daylight. They must be acknowledged. And let us start with Mama Ngenya Kenyatta. Now, for those of you who cannot wait for this to happen, these two annexes are available in the United States of America. They're also available here in Kenya, because you can Google Seattle University School and you can download them. But my question is this: why must we go to an American university to find our history? In 2021, one of the commissioners, I am reminded, Ronald Sly, made it available in a university that he taught. But my question is, why isn't it available on the website of University of Nairobi, Kenyatta University, Mount Kenya University, Moi University? There are many places we should be seeing this report. So let me close with a thought which I would like you to keep. So we have two actions that we need to undertake. The first is we must return to Parliament, and we must have the Cabinet Secretary for Interior return to Parliament. And he must explain why this homework that was given by the President has not been completed. Secondly, we must also demand that the two annexes be made available publicly. And maybe we can discuss them in Wajir next year. Let me turn to the significance of Wajir and Wagalla today. There are four significances. The first is that we are about to go into elections. And we have to make sure that these elections lead to no blood loss. There is no blood that is worth spilling for voting in leaders, because those leaders enter government, they enter our county governments with blood on their hands. And we must demand as young people, as elderly people, that we will not shed blood during this season. That is the first significance of Wagalla. The second, and my heart bleeds, when I go to a county that is close to you, in Massacre, where the tensions between the Borana and the Gabre are so high that we see people being shot, we see people being abducted here in Nairobi, and I think we can demand today for the release of at least two people. One is the release of Kuni Halanke and Robert Seraka. These two people have been abducted, potentially or possibly linked to the elections and to the violence in Marsabit. Let me go to the border of Kenya. For the last 1 year, we have seen a painful, brutal war that has separated Ethiopians. We have seen drones being used on the people of Tigray. We have seen vicious attacks on women, Ethiopian women. We have seen gender-based violence that is too graphic for even us to talk about here. And I know that another daughter, an ancestor of Wajir, Beka Ibrahim, would be cursing, if she can curse. She would be saying, "My people, we perish because we have not raised our voices to stop the violence in Ethiopia." The third and last significance of Wagalla is in Palestine, in the West Bank and in the occupied Palestinian territories, where 49% of the 6.8 Palestinians live as refugees. They carry passbooks like our elders used to carry. Over 56 of the Palestinians today are being moved from places that they have known as their homes, forcibly evicted by other settlers with other religions. And I say this without any reservation, for I am not anti-Semitic. For I believe that both Israel and Palestine must have their own states. They deserve their own states. But both of those states must operate under international law. And they must operate under international human rights standards. And I leave you with this thought. Evil has no ethnic identity. For some of you sitting here and thinking about the Degode experience and thinking that there is something that runs in the blood of the Borana, please allow yourself to let that thought go. Evil has no language, specific language. It has no ethnic identity. It has no nationality even. Evil is evil. And in this day that we memorialize the Wagalla massacre, let us remember that evil always will find its place in the arc of justice. That always we will remember the names of the people that we have spoken about today. The Member of Parliament, the nurse, the Catholic nun, the civil servant. In fact, the thing about Bishar, I remember him well, is that it took me a long time to know his other name because they used to call him Chief Bishar, even when he was no longer a chief. Ismaili. Some people know his name. But I remembered him, and I think the name Chief was almost like his first name. But why we used it is to remind ourselves that even within government, they were good people. So I leave you this afternoon, the 38th memorial of the Wagalla massacre, with a thought that among us, there are more just people, there are more humane people than there will ever be evil people. And that's how we continue to move forward. That's how we continue to remember the justice that we seek in the next few days. And my request is, as we go to Parliament, let us not waste time. I pledge the support of Amnesty International Kenya in any way that you need to have this issue brought back to Parliament, to have this issue raised in a way in which we can see peace and non-violence reign across 47 counties of our beloved republic. I thank you very much, and I honor you and thank you for honoring us to be able to join you this afternoon. Thank you.